I didn't really know what it was going to be or look like.
Welcome to The Chat With Us, a The Last of Us after show powered by fandom. Coming up on the show, we'll hear from Tess herself. Anna Torv talks about locking lips with an infected, how social media is reacting to the episode, Ellie's Curse of the Week, and much more.
I'm Chris Hayner, GameSpot Entertainment Editor. Joining me every single week, co-host, TV Guide Senior Editor Megan Vick, and with us this week, the King of Fandom, Managing Editor of Fandom, Eric Goldman. We're here to talk episode 2.
I will say, if the first episode was an emotional introduction to this world, episode 2 was an informational introduction to this world. We start off, we go back to Jakarta in 2003. We get a lowdown on sort of how this virus started and how it spread so quickly. And then we jump back to 2023 and we're in Boston with Tess and Joel and Ellie, and as they're exploring, and we learn a lot more about how these clickers are operating within the current structure as they are in Boston. We have several very scary moments within the episode, which we will definitely break apart. The mission is to get Ellie to the State House outside of Boston so that they can take over transferring her west so that they can hopefully find a cure. And obviously there are some obstacles that come with that. And then we have a major sacrifice at the end of this episode. But yeah, why don't we start talking about like this sort of information dump that we have at the top of this episode with Jakarta and how much we found out about this virus.
Here's the thing. I finished playing the first Last of Us game on January 3rd, 4th maybe?
Of this year?
Oh,
wow.
Took me 10 years. So it's so fresh in my mind. And all this stuff they're adding and like the flashback backstory stuff, I'm really digging. Kind of building out the world from what we see in the game, but feels very much, it fits right in. So I really liked seeing this look at a completely different part of the world, literally, and getting this idea of how it's beginning, because this is where as far as we know, this is where it first began.
I like this tactic of jumping around in time to sort of give the build, because honestly, we played the game.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff that normally hidden in like documents that you find stuffed into a desk as you're walking through an office.
Right.
Like a memo from one person to another. It was like, oh, did you know everything went terribly? And honestly, the whole Jakarta scene was just soul crushing.
Especially for those of us who have not played the video game, we didn't know what we were getting into. There's a military force. They approach this woman. We don't know why until she gets to this lab and they're like, hey, we heard that you're a fungi expert. Can you take a look at this body? And when she takes a look at this body, she immediately is like, no, peace out.
We gotta go.
Bomb everything.
That's really like the startling thing is that they're like, we came to you for a vaccine. And she's like, nah. That doesn't.
The vaccine is eradication.
Yeah, this doesn't happen. The only thing you can do is bomb this city. Please send me home to my family. And there's no reason to believe that this woman is evil, or it's not like some evil military dictator or a general that you're like is heartless. This is a woman who has like looked at it and is like, no, the only thing you can do is kill everybody involved. And sort of, I thought that was a very interesting way to introduce how the military, both in 2003 and 2023, are approaching this virus. That it is shoot first, ask questions later.
Well, and it was really interesting, I thought, because like essentially we're told that they'd only discovered this infected person within the last 30 hours. And there's been no detection of anything else that we know of, really. But she's like, it doesn't matter. It's too late. It's already too late.
The key thing is that they found her and they found the people that she had interacted with. And then she was like, how many people are missing? And when they said 14, that's when she was like, we're done.
And they don't know who bit her.
Yeah.
So it's like they already don't know how far back it goes.
And it's just done.
Yeah.
It's done.
And I really liked also, medically speaking, we got this look where she's like cutting open the wound and whatnot. We see this sort of white gunk inside this woman's leg. And then we get that look of the thing she pulls out of the mouth and the fact that A, they're still moving, and B, more of them come out and keep moving, which is when she wisely says, I'm getting the hell out of this room. But
Look,
very effective.
I love this show. If I never have to see fungus again.
I never like mushrooms, guys. So.
I hate mushrooms. So like I don't want any of this.
All that. Yeah.
I will say that some members of our team have requested that if you have mushroom recipes, because this show has made them crave mushrooms, I don't understand them. But if you have mushroom recipes after watching the show, please put them in the comments.
That's disgusting. Don't do it. I would argue you should not do that.
But yeah, so we have the info dump from Jakarta, but also as we are starting to explore Boston with Joel, Tess, and Ellie, Tess gives a lot of information about the current day zombies and the fact that like there are tendrils underground, so they have hive mind.
Yeah.
So it's like you might survive one, but 20 of his buddies have now been alerted that you are there.
And these aren't necessarily the slow plotting zombies that like we all convince ourselves we could outrun. These guys are not to be trifled with.
And the other thing I like on this show is I was talking to someone who was like, how does this show make itself distinct from Walking Dead? And I was like, well, one way, there's many ways, but one way is because this has been going on for 20 years, it's like we're just kind of in this world that people were kind of dealing with it. And the fact that Joel, when he's told that like, hey, Ellie may be the key to the vaccine, he finishes the sentence and he's like,
I've heard this before.
Yeah.
like, I've already gone through the false hope of maybe the key to the vaccine is right here. And I really like that. And it's not that there's never been a zombie story set this far in, but most of them start at the beginning, only stick at the beginning. But I like that we're getting this sort of world where yeah, we've had to deal with this for 20 freaking years, you know?
Well, yeah, because like obviously the go-to everyone goes to when you think of zombie shows is The Walking Dead, and the first few seasons of that show was just about the downfall.
Yes.
We're watching things go straight to hell. This is like it drops you after the Jakarta scene. It drops you back in dilapidated piece of Boston that's just it's so sad. And you're like, okay, but this is just their daily life.
And I will also say what this show is balancing really well is like, again, there's a lot of information in this episode that we didn't
This
get
is
in the
the
first
exposition of us for sure.
Right. And I love that they saved it for the second episode so that we are already connected and
Yeah.
invested. But I will also say they didn't drop the emotional thread. I think there's some very important emotional beats played out in this episode, starting with at the beginning when they have now found out that Ellie has been bitten and they're trying to figure out, like, is she really immune or not? And my favorite line that Anna Torv says in this episode is like, hey, listen, me and Joel are not good people. You are a means to an end, and as soon as you stop being a means to an end, we will shoot you. We don't care. And we are not about to get attacked by zombies for you. And I thought that was like a very interesting character development and sort of like a statement of like who these people are, because like they're not the noble saviors. They're not going to take care of Ellie in a way that we expect people. Like, it's not immediately a very mushy like parents adopt a child situation.
No.
It is like these are mercenaries.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool, and then to see that sort of like play out through the rest of the episode was interesting.
And also, when we learn about, and you know, if this was in the game, I apologize for missing it. It might have been in there subtly, but there. One thing when I'm playing the game is I'm like, maybe things seem a little overly like destroyed, but here it's much more. I understand because she's like, hey, we bombed everything. Like everything got bombed and it didn't work. It worked here, but most places it didn't work. And so you get the idea that it's like, it's not just that there was an outbreak and rioting and whatnot, but it's like, yeah, they just it was instantly turned to like, there's no way to cure this. So we just have to try to kill everyone who's got it. And you understand much more like how it got to this state, this world, you know?
We learned a lot about how the clickers operate, kind of.
We encounter some clickers in this episode. We have some mushroom heads.
This ain't old Granny Zombie anymore.
No.
Granny Zombie is long gone, probably.
There is a portion of the episode in which Joel, Tess, and Ellie have to go through this museum in order to get to the other side of Boston. They have a very close encounter with some clicker.
And we should mention also, it's like they're pulling things directly from the game. Like first they go into the fancy hotel, and in the game, Tess wasn't with them at that point, but she has a line that's pulled right from it when Ellie's like, you ever stay in a place like this?
No, this is too rich for my blood.
And it's Tess in the show.
No, a little out of our league.
And Neil Druckmann directed this episode, you know? So it's like the creator of the game is heavily involved here.
It's so cool that he got to direct such an important episode of the story that he's been writing on for years and years and years.
Well, I would say, like, we should talk about why it is such an important episode. It's not just because of the information. We have a big scene. The finale set piece of this episode is huge, in which they get to the state house and they realize that someone has gotten infected and there has been some sort of conflict and everyone is dead. So there is no one to take Ellie.
Yeah, the Fireflies they were supposed to meet up with.
Right.
Absolutely. And Tess seems to be the most disturbed about that. And Ellie very, like, promptly and smartly points out, it's like,
she's infected.
And at that point, an infected rises up and Joel kills him. And those tendrils that run under the ground and alert everybody immediately become relevant. We have all of the zombies in the Boston area now approaching the state house. And Tess makes the noble decision that she's going to blow up all these zombies as a distraction to allow Joel and Ellie the chance to escape. And she has tasked Joel with taking Ellie the rest of the way. So we are going to get into what is the predominant game story after this point.
Absolutely, because what we sort of glean from the episode is that, like, Joel doesn't buy it. Doesn't buy the
No.
immunity thing. However, even if Tess doesn't buy it, it's something to have hope in. But like she's willing to ultimately sacrifice herself in a very noble and truly disturbing way.
And first of all, they gave her a pretty gnarly bite on her neck and it all infected out. But, when she asked to see Ellie, because Ellie gets bit again.
I mean, if it was going to happen to one of us.
Just the fact that, again, she got bit, again, it's healing, it doesn't look bad. And so that's like in her dying moments, she's telling him, look, like compare this to that. Maybe, we should believe in this.
And I will say, we did talk to Anna Torv about that moment and the emotional heft of it, because it is different in the games. In the games, she sacrifices herself to some guards, I believe. I'm not the video game expert here.
You were correct.
Thank you. So we had her sort of like break down why that was important and sort of why Tess made the decision that she did. So let's hear from Anna.
I think that by the end, it's like, God, everybody wants hope. And I think that that's kind of the thing that Joel and Tess have lost. And I think Tess definitely softens a little bit more towards Ellie, but once she gets bit and she realizes that it's happening, that she really has been bit. And Ellie does too. And she looks and she goes, oh my God, this is real. Like, this is what people keep talking about. Surely there has to be a cure. Surely there has to be an antidote.
This is real.
This is real, and this is potentially your chance to have the world forgive us for all the things that we've done. Like, save who you can save.
We had a very, very high opinion of episode 1, and I think that was a very solid pilot. How did you guys feel about this episode following up such a strong start?
As I'm sitting here at this moment, I've seen the first 4. And so it's funny when I say this is my least favorite of the first 4, keep in mind, I'm saying that as a compliment. I'm saying like if this is the low ground of the show, it's a very, that shows you the quality of the show. It's not as strong as the premiere, I think. It's a little more sort of exposition and I think stuff they have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
They have to explain, here are the rules, here's what makes them come to you, all these sort of things. So I don't think it's quite as strong as the first episode or some stuff I've seen to come, but it's still really good.
Anna Torv is fantastic. I'm still holding out hope that we'll get some sort of flashback to like Joel and Tess, like
The early days.
like
yeah.
like a prequel, we'll say.
Yes. I mean, and the show, from the first 2 episodes, from even this one, and like it feels almost like Lost-esque, even though I understand that Doctor's not a regular character, but the idea that you can sort of filter in these flashbacks is part of the show's texture.
My fingers are crossed that we have not seen the last of Anna Torv. No idea whether that's true or not, but ultimately, I thought it was really good.
I also am hopeful for flashbacks because I just don't see you hiring an actress of Anna Torv's caliber for as short a time as they used. Like, if you're gonna have her, utilize her. And it seems like they are interested in going into some very deep places. And so I think like maybe even if she's not back in season 1, maybe like fingers crossed, season 2 there's some stuff that we can see. Granted, I don't know how the season ends yet, but
if the season ends how I think it ends, my hope is that the next couple seasons will fill space between the 2 games.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. But I will say, I think it is time to talk about Megan's Nightmare. Scene of the week. As Eric mentioned, we have seen a few episodes ahead of time, and when we had our staff meetings trying to plan this out, this was the scene where I was like, I
will say, when I watched it, I was like, oh, Megan's gonna hate this. This is where Megan will stop watching the show.
This is the closest I came to not. I was like, I need to go throw up. And the scene is, it is Tess's final moments when she's in the state house. She has poured gasoline all over the floor and she has a lighter. She's trying to get it to light, but it won't. So, and I'm calling the mushroom heads, comes up to her, sensing that she's been infected is what I'm guessing. And instead of violently tearing her apart, backs her up against the wall and feels like a very romantic mushroom moment.
And they called it zombie love.
And and he sticks his mouth tendrils into her mouth. It is a French kiss.
It's disgusting.
Chris, read my note. This is my actual notes as I was
Ew,
watching.
on him kissing her with fungus mouth.
That is what I typed as I was watching
Nailed
this
it.
episode.
I was almost physically ill. It was so, and I have like the nightmare that I've had literal nightmare. That is the scene that has haunted me from the episodes that I have seen. And it is that like, I will wake up, there will be a clicker over me and he makes out with me as I am stuck on my bed. And that is like, I can't.
It was appropriately and effectively creepy and gross. And I'm very happy Tess was able to light that lighter and cut off that kiss from going further.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you thought we were disgusted by it, you should hear what Anna Torv has to say about it. And thankfully, you can.
It's just revolting. I thought it was going to be different. That scene, when I read it, I thought it was going to be a very different thing. All of that is effects, except the guys. As far as the infected goes, a lot of it was makeup, was pretty amazing makeup. But all of the tendrils and all the rest of it is all special effects. So I didn't really know what it was going to be or look like. I thought it was going to be more operatic, actually, that bit. Like, I thought, are they drawn or is it this or whatever? And then I look and I'm like, wow, it's just, whoa, gross.
This also has an interesting parallel moment to something that happened in my nightmare scene from the pilot.
Oh, okay.
Which is like, I was also freaked out by the grandma coming up and the things coming out of her mouth. And now we have it again, but like there's so much more weight on this now because like we know Tess, we love Tess, we understand what is happening, that she is being like, we now know that she's being fused into the hive mind of this whole thing. And I think that's a very interesting, but yet like subtle thing that they're doing, that like we physically grew the fungus in this episode much more than we saw in episode 1, but emotionally we are also
growing the fungus.
Growing the
We're
fungus.
growing emotional fungus.
Aren't we all just trying to grow the fungus,
I'm
guys?
just like in my heart,
Right?
you know?
No.
Let's it's okay. We can move on to something much more exciting,
another
and that's
thing.
Ellie's Curse of the Week. This week, it was pretty early. It's when Ellie wakes up and doesn't know what's going on, and she sits up and she looks over, and there's Joel and Tess, and Joel's pointing a gun at her. Because they're just waiting for her to turn. And they start asking her questions. She says, like, great, I have to pee. And they're like, and they put her to you got to answer our questions first. What were they doing to you? Like, what did they do to test you to make sure you weren't a zombie? And she said, and I quote, "They made me count to 10 and hold out my hand and keep it steady. But you know, I think that really impressed them is the fact that I didn't turn into a
Fucking monster."
And then she takes a magazine and goes into the other room. Look, we were all kids once upon a time.
That's a rumor.
And chances are we cursed at some point. I never did it as smoothly as Ellie does at any point in this show. She's good at it.
She's very good at it.
I think it's important to point out that like Joel and Tess have like not tried to be friendly to her. They are not kind to her, and for her to have the guts in this situation.
Joel is so pissed that any of this is happening.
Right. I think for her to have the guts to talk to them like that when her life is dependent on them caring about her, I think just says about a lot, that like Ellie's like, I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit you. I'm not gonna,
man.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about what we think, but of course we want to know what you think, so we are gonna hand it over to our friends over at GameSpot for the social media reactions to this episode.
Take it away, boys.
What's up, everybody? Will and Tom from GameSpot Social here, taking you through our favorite social media reactions to episode 2 of The Last of Us. Tom, did you enjoy the episode?
I did, for the most part. Very much enjoying the show so far.
Well, our first tweet here is from @based_Marvel. The Last of Us episode 2 spoilers with no context. We've got a picture of a sandwich here. Obviously the chicken sandwich that Ellie packed in her bag.
Ellie's sandwich didn't look, it looked good for the post-apocalypse, but it didn't look this good.
Piano, underwater piano.
Like, I'm surprised it was still functional, honestly. The fact that we heard notes coming out of it, I was like, oh, that piano still works, huh?
We've got a hatchet here, which I could not remember, and you easily placed it for me.
Yeah, this is from when they face off against the clickers, and I think it's Tess embeds a hatchet into the side of one of their heads before Joel shoots it.
And then finally, a lighter. For the final moment there, the gas all around her, dropping the lighter. The lighter wouldn't go off.
Oh, so stressful. Please. I was like, please.
Our next tweet here from Janet Garcia @GameAndIsis. Tom, you found this one. It's incredible. Please tell me it.
Episode 2 of T-Lu confirmed that the canonical way to play the game is to immediately fail at stealth and start firing chaotically. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This totally, like, the moment that Joel gets noticed by the clicker, he just unloads that AK-47 into their body. And, you know, I think we've all been there in at least some of our playthroughs of The Last of Us, just trying to sneak around. And then once all hell breaks loose, gotta pull out the big guns.
Well, folks, those were our social media reactions this week from episode 2 of The Last of Us. Back to you in the studio.
You know what? I'm going to ask this. What do you want most from episode 3 and things coming forward? What do you feel like you don't have as of episode 2 that you really want to know more about?
I honestly don't know what, like, I like, as someone who played and loved the game, I'm excited for Ellie and Joel on the road. So much of the game is like you're just walking through the woods with Joel and Ellie, and and they're just talking to each other, and they run into animals that they have to kill, and they run into, you know, people that they have to kill, and zombies. They run into a lot of stuff
they have to kill some people. It's fine.
They have to kill a lot of people. But like, yeah, that's at this point, as someone who knows The Last of Us, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited for, like, and they're gonna come across settlements, they're gonna come across places, but like, I'm most excited for just the quiet moments where it's just the two of them getting to know each other as they're on the road.
Yeah, it's funny. As much as I'm as sad as I am to lose Tess and lose Anna Torv, you know, the game itself, and I think these first 2 episodes functioning similar. It's like almost has 2 prologues, because there's the prologue with him and his daughter, but then everything with Tess kind of feels like a prologue too, to getting them on their own traveling. So now that we've seen that, it's like, yeah, this is okay. Now we're really in it with The Last of Us. I'm very excited about that. And I will say, I mean, Tess does have that line, I need you to get her to Bill and Frank's. Anyone who knows the game is going to be intrigued by those names being thrown out anyway.
You're going to know those names.
And so I'm excited for everyone to see that as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about Bill and Frank too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really, really stellar thing for us to talk about. So okay, thank you guys once again for coming to join us on the chat with us. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you next week. So if you like this video, leave us a comment, like, subscribe.
I just want a 10th episode that's just Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal like hanging out, because dang it, those two are spot on.
HBO, if you are watching, make another one of your documentaries like you did for Game of Thrones, but it's just Bella and Pedro.
Yeah.